Hi, my name is Michaelis, and this is Zagreb Open Green Park Occupancy Analysis video tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to work with occupancy analysis simulation, including setting initial data, running it, and viewing the results. To start working with occupancy analysis, we need to click on its link under the new simulation title. In the first step, we need to give brief information about the simulation simply by setting the title and description to it. I will write test and video tutorial. And we can go to the next step simply by clicking the button Next Step at the bottom of the page. This step requires all the initial data for simulation. The start date that can be chosen from calendar and can be any date that you would like. Simulation period, that is amount of days, how many will be simulated. I will choose 15. Park visitors per day will be amount of people who are coming to the Green Park every day. And autism center people, persons with autism, that I will set to 50, and their accompanying persons that are coming to the park with the autists, I will set them also to 50. Second part of this step includes information about park zones. Each park zone has its own box in which its information is being given. The text area shows initial zone surface square meters, how big the zone will be, and under there's a list of all the allowed activities in its zone. And you can select all the activities to allow in your simulation. You can select none of them or manually set some of them that you would like. If you want totally to exclude some zone from your simulation, you simply write 0 as its zone surface and do not select any of the activities. And before carrying on, we need to set all this information for each one of the park zones. Okay, I've finished inputting all the information for each one of the zones. I've excluded all the last of the zones. And we can start simulation by clicking the button at the bottom of the page. And now simulation is running. At the top you can see all the initial data that you have set. Selected zone activities for each zone. You can show and hide them. And the progress bar at the bottom. Without any interruption by user, the result page is shown. On top there you can see initial data that you had set before and selected zone activities. The first table, zone surface size, shows 3 types of data. Initial size that you had set before the simulation, maximum zone surface with rejected visitors that was needed size for the zone, so no visitor would be rejected, and maximum zone surface, the maximum size that had to be given and that could be given. That was the combination of first and third column. In the first zone you can see that there is no problem. Initial size is greater than needed size, so that means extra 110 square meters would be left over. Similar situation is at the playground with games 3 for adolescents. Different one is at the sandbox. As before the simulation, I did not check any of the activities. Sandbox zone is actually useless because nothing can be performed in there, no activity. That's why needed zone size and zone size given was actually 0 square meters. Different situation is in the grass zone. When a zone is overused and needed zone surface size is greater than the initial size, zone looks to other zones and tries to find some surface size that would be left over. For example, playground with games 1 have 110 square meters left over. It means that grass zone could take its size and add it to itself. If the rejected visitor's zone size is greater than the actually given maximum zone surface, it means that at the situation when 34 square meters were needed, there were no zone that could give such zone surface size, and some visitors were rejected. And below there you can see that all the rest of the zones were totally excluded from simulation. Initial zone size chart shows distribution of initial zone sizes that you set before the simulation. Zone size after simulation shows how the zones were distributed after the simulation and all the calculations, but this chart will not be perfectly distributed because a lot of zone size will be left over. On the bottom of the first table, there you can see that 540 square meters were set initially, but only 230 were needed at the end. That means that 310 square meters were left over, and they need to be distributed overall in those zones. Although grass zone is 188.5 square meters, the first table shows that only 34 were needed. But simulation adds extra 150 square meters, this leftover zone size. Potential conflicts in zone show all the conflicts that occur between activity 1 performed by profile 1 and activity 2 performed by profile 2, and conflict occurs between two activities in some particular zone. Contacts between autistic and non-autistic visitors show which activity were performed and in which zone when non-autistic and autistic visitor profiles were contacting, and the last column shows the number of contacts. Park zone maximum surface shows zone surface changes in the time distribution, and one time slot is 15 minutes, and hovering the mouse over this chart on the right side in the list there you can see how the information is changing. Park zone occupancy chart shows occupancy changes in each zone. If you want to see this chart in smaller range, you can drag this toolbar on the bottom and see smaller range of occupancy changes. And in here also, if you hover the mouse over this chart, on the right side you can see all the occupancy changes. Rejected visitors in zone show how many visitors will be rejected in those situations when zone cannot borrow some zone size from others and it's overused. As there you can see, there are two peaks on the 1745 on the 10th of October, and on 1830 the grass zone needed to reject 2 visitors.